Okay, this video hopefully will explain one of the most common sentence errors that students have in their writing, the good old-fashioned fragment. A fragment means a piece or a part of something that should be whole. Imagine when you break a glass and you get little fragments of glass that were part of the whole. So sentences, if they're missing something important, are called fragments. So let's go. So the first thing to know about sentences is there are rules. Sentences are grammatically correct or they're not correct. And you can learn to tell the difference between a correct sentence and an incorrect sentence by learning just a few very basic rules and then trying to apply those rules and practice identifying correct sentences and sentences that have grammatical flaws in them. All right, so when I say to my students, what do you have to have in a sentence to make it correct? They pretty much always say you have to start with a capital letter and finish with a full stop. And that's true, you do. That's called punctuation. And you, instead of the full stop, you could also use a question mark or an exclamation mark. That's really important. But there is more to it than that. What about the actual words in the sentence? Now, there are three important things that every correct formal sentence should have. And here I'm talking about formal writing that you would put in a textbook, in a newspaper article, in an essay, that kind of thing. All right, so we're talking about formal English here. So, rule number one is that a sentence needs to have a subject. All right, and there needs to be somebody in the sentence, something or person or a thing that the sentence is about. Okay, and you might wonder how you could have a sentence that doesn't have a person or a thing that the sentence is about in it. And in a second, I'm going to show you that actually it does happen. All right, so more on how the sentence needs to have a subject. So the subject is the personal thing that the sentence is all about. And we've got some example sentences here. And I'm identifying that the subject of on Sunday we played tennis. So the subject of that sentence is we. The next sentence, his hair stood on end. In this sentence, the subject is his hair. Not just him, but his hair. That's the subject. What's it doing? It's standing on end. And in this sentence, the after-match celebrations got out of control. In this sentence, the subject is the after-match celebrations. What happened to them? They got out of control. And victory was sweet. In this sentence, it's victory. You could have another sentence that, John sat down. And in that sentence, our subject is John. They're a little easier to spot. But the subject has to be there, whether it's a person or a thing or a thought or something like that. Okay? I'm trying to move on because I've said I've got to be quick here. Here's some errors with sentences not having a subject. Our first one, standing on end as a result of getting a fright. So you might ask yourself in this sentence, what is standing on end? For example, it could be his hair was standing on end as a result of getting a fright. Something is missing. Our subject is missing. The next one, somewhat less so than would normally be expected. What was less than expected? All right, so we're missing there the subject of the sentence. And the next one, over and over again, laughing and playing the fool. Who was doing that? You might add in the word she and the word was in here. Over and over again, she was laughing and playing the fool. And that would fix that sentence by adding in the subject of the sentence. All right, we're on to rule number two. The sentence must have a verb. The verb can be a physical action, a mental action, or a state of being. Now, that will be the one that most of you are less familiar with, okay? Physical action, she ran. Even though that's very short, that is a sentence. We have a subject and we have a verb. We've got a complete thought. Mental action, the blob could not think. Okay, there's the mental action, either doing something with your mind or, in fact, not doing something with your mind. And here's this state of being. So words like am, is, are, were not, I was not tall, was not would be the verb there, okay? All right, so every sentence has to have a verb. So rule number 3 is that every sentence must express a complete thought. It should be able to stand alone if separated from other sentences. So here's a few examples. This one's easier to explain if I show you some sentences that have errors in them. So here is a sentence that does not express a complete thought. The ball rolling down the hill. And here's a couple of ways that you could change that by adding in some words to turn it into a complete thought. The ball rolling down the hill was caught. Or the ball was rolling down the hill. Okay? So in both cases, it's missing a verb. And that's fixed it up. So in a lot of the cases when it's not a complete thought, it's because it's missing the subject or the verb, but not always. So here we've got another example. The headless horseman's bloody neck seen by millions on television. And corrections, adding in was here is enough to fix that sentence up, or adding in the end of the sentence here, the headless horseman's bloody neck, seen by millions on television, rolled down the hill. So that finishes off the thought. Okay, so this is another example. Until the situation improves. So this word until sets us up with half of the sentence. Until the situation improves something. We've got to have something that contrasts with that until. And here's 2 ways it could be done. Until the situation improves, we will do distance learning. There you go. Or you can start the sentence with something like, it will not happen until the situation improves. Either way, we did not have a complete thought and we've needed to add to the sentence. All right, so what I'm going to do here is just let you, I'm going to give you in a second a couple of sentences for you to have a look at on your own. I'll get you to put your finger on the pause button, pause on the next slide, and look at each sentence and in your own mind decide whether you think it's a sentence fragment, incomplete, or if you think it's correct. And if you think it's a fragment, what do you think it's missing? Is it missing a subject? Is it missing a verb? Is it missing the complete thought? Or is it a combination of all of those things? Let's have a look. All right, pause your thing here and decide what you think. All right, we're back. Okay, so this first sentence, sitting under a tree, Donna threaded her needle, is correct. Okay, complete thought there and has everything it needs. Running backwards, laughing her head off. That is a fragment. We're missing some corrections to that sentence. You could add in something like she was laughing her head off in there. While he was playing halfback flank, that is a fragment. So this word here, while, sets us up with while he was doing this, something else happened. So we need to add in the what's that's been contrasted with. While he was playing halfback flank, he kicked 7 goals. Or he fell over. And similarly here, we've got a sentence that has a word that sets up for a contrast, although we grow vegetables, but in this case we've got the contrast and the sentence is complete, and so that's a correct sentence. All right? In this case, I've got a little paragraph and I'll get you to do this. Pause your video and just see if you can identify which of the sentences in here you think you should be correcting. All right, here we go. So I've identified them here. These are the ones that are not correct. And I said I'd keep this video short and it's getting long, so I'm not going to go through each and every one of them with you and try and explain it because it's just going to make the video way too long. But what I will do on the next slide is I will give you some of the corrections that I came up with to fix those sentences. So just adding in these bits here. In this case, I joined that sentence to the one before, and I did the same here. Just adding in a few words here. This one was a bit of a dog's breakfast, and I needed to do a fair bit to it to fix it up, and here as well. So hopefully you guys know now. Well, I was going to write fragment there, and you guys know what fragments are. They're parts of sentences, incomplete sentences, and you're now on the way to being able to see in your own writing where maybe you need to do a bit more work on a sentence so that it can stand alone on its own, because it's got a subject, a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. All right, thanks guys. Catch you later.